The conflict between Ukraine and Russia is having a profound impact on the world order at an international level. While the war's effects are altering the military, diplomatic, and socio-economic plans of countries worldwide, Russia's activity in international waters has caused a global crisis. In recent weeks, Russia has provoked this crisis by bringing the Russian frigate Admiral Gorshkov, armed with Zircon Hypersonic missiles, within striking distance of the U.S. As a result, NATO Navy has been tracking Admiral Gorshkov since it left port on January 4th. Last week, the Russian warship was on its way to U.S. waters, and while it was initially believed to be heading towards the Horn of Africa, the Russian Admiral Gorshkov frigate was intercepted by radar while heading west. It has been reported that the warship was detected on radar in the neutral waters of the Atlantic Ocean, an effective launch distance from the U.S. coast. Before leaving port, the Russian Ministry of Defense had announced that the ship's crew was prepared for combat operations, which further escalated tensions. However, the Portuguese Navy, a NATO member, pursued the Russian frigate Admiral Gorshkov and its companion tanker Kama, but the frigate unexpectedly turned west while the tanker continued south of the Azores. According to the radar monitoring site Tarmil Radar, Admiral Gorshkov was spotted about 1287 kilometers west of the island of Flores in the Azores, which is not yet within range of the U.S. with its circled missiles. The frigate was also believed to carry the caliber cruise missiles used by the Kremlin in Ukraine. Additionally, the Type 23 frigate HMS Portland was following the Russian frigate while cruising close to the UK. In the ongoing pursuit, the Royal Navy intercepted Admiral Gorshkov while it was crossing the English Channel, after departing from the Arctic naval base Severomorsk. According to reports, Admiral Gorshkov continued on its course and is currently in the Atlantic Ocean. The Russian Navy's missile frigate is causing significant tension in the region, and the Russian Defense Ministry has reported that it was released into the Atlantic as an escalator of tension. This could expose Russia's desperation and policy of destruction. Furthermore, Russian bombs came close to U.S. Air Forces in Alaska and Canadian airspace this week, revealing the Russians' helplessness in games. While the Chinese and Russian navies were operating in the Pacific, the U.S. and NATO navies postponed their planned exercises to avoid escalating tension. This attitude also reveals the difference of opinion between the two conventional groups. During their long-range deployment mission in the South Atlantic, the crew of Admiral Gorshkov conducted artillery fire on a naval target as part of their preparation for a joint naval exercise. The crew fired from the 130mm 192m Shipburn multipurpose artillery system at a naval target that simulated a fictitious enemy warship from a distance of over 10 kilometers. The frigate's crew practiced target designation to use the battleship's artillery, and in a statement, it was mentioned that the crew conducted exercises to create electronic interference to counter the precision weapons of the simulated enemy. The Russian ministry confirmed that the target was successfully hit during the exercise. The frigate initially conducted air defense exercises in the Norwegian Sea before being deployed to the Atlantic Ocean to complete its assigned missions. The Russian Ministry of Defense had previously announced plans for naval exercises with the South African and Chinese navies off the coast of South Africa in February. With the realization of these exercises, tensions in international waters reached their peak. The exercise carried out by Admiral Gorshkov in the Atlantic was a show of strength by Russian leader Vladimir Putin. However, if the U.S. fails to act calmly and consider Russian interests, it may render Russian efforts and aims completely futile. Taking a broader perspective, Putin appears to be making such provocations out of desperation, as he has resorted to using Gorshkov to achieve his goals. In the past 5 months, the Russian leader has confronted the world with nuclear threats, particularly when the Ukrainian army performed at a high level. Today, Putin is showing that he has no other choice but to use the most important missile ship of the Russian Navy, Admiral Gorshkov. However, Putin's strategy also poses a significant threat, as the tactical nuclear weapons in Admiral Gorshkov could pose a serious threat to NATO countries in various operational scenarios. While it is true that warships of the Northern Fleet regularly launched with nuclear weapons during the Soviet era, This exercise in the Atlantic marks the first time the modern Russian Federation has done the same. Following the exercise, Norwegian intelligence stated that the key part of Russia's nuclear potential is in its submarines and surface ships of the Northern Fleet. Tactical nuclear weapons, anti-satellite weapons, and cyber capabilities pose a significant threat to Norway and the alliance. Ongoing tensions between Russia and the West indicate that Russia remains the biggest nuclear threat to NATO, and therefore Norway. Thus, a local war could easily escalate into a wider conflict, with direct military intervention by Russia, the US, NATO, and Norway. The report also states that Russia will continue to modernize and develop its nuclear arsenal, but no major changes are expected in Russian nuclear doctrine in the coming years. Ukraine's defense intelligence had previously declared that it considers the threat by Russia to use tactical nuclear weapons against Ukraine too high. Ukraine's intelligence chief Kirill Budanov reported that Russia was not likely to launch a nuclear attack in the near future, amidst ongoing global concerns. The United States responded with critical statements after Russia's exercise in the Atlantic, stating at a high-level event that Russia's unprovoked attack on Ukraine has ended decades of Arctic cooperation. The United States plans to restart projects without involving Russia in the Arctic Council and to work closely with Norway in the future. U.S. Arctic Research Commission officials recently announced their 2023 and 2024 goals at an event at the Wilson Center, which also marked the first public announcement of the Commission's goals in nearly 40 years. Along with presenting their objectives, they also included a chapter on Arctic economics to better understand the potential of the region, such as in Arctic shipping. Russia's aggression against Ukraine has disrupted decades of cooperation among the 8 Arctic states, despite Russia having the most territory and population north of the Arctic Circle. Moscow's decision to invade its independent and sovereign neighbor has made future cooperation almost impossible. Even before launching the biggest conflict in Europe since World War II, Moscow began an aggressive program of remilitarizing the Arctic, which included building and modernizing bases, expanding its icebreak fleet, and developing dangerous naval weapon systems. This goes against the preservation of the High North as a low-tension zone. The effects of the crisis caused by Russia's actions continue to rapidly grow in international waters. Putin seems unaware of the risks and dangers as he confronts the world, but it may be too late for him to realize the consequences. This is all for today. You can support our Ukrainian team by subscribing, and hit the like button if you enjoyed the video. We'll be back with more updates and information. Thanks for watching.